Welcome, Internet. Thank you so much for hopping in here today. I am one of your lovely hosts. Technically, now I have a title. I learned that there's this new thing on StreamYard that you can show headlines. So I am officially your boy, Wrecks. Great to see you all out there. I know. Becca, you can add your own too if you want to get creative.
Right. I was too busy trying to get the game loaded though, and I got it fixed.
Hey, all right. So we will be able to jump in today. Exciting stuff. And we are joined today by Ben Mauro from Huxley, the owner of not only the most badass game trailer that exists out there in Web3 today, but probably some very sandy and dusty drawers, because it looks like it's a very dusty planet on Fury 7. So we can, we're going to dig into all that and more on today's wonderful episode of Playconomy. I tapped and I messaged one of my great friends to make a guest appearance real quick and talk about what it's him using this owned.gg game discovery platform. So let's see if he will come on and talk now.
Oh my God.
It's me, Mario. I'm a big fan of finding new games, even outside of the wonderful Nintendo ecosystem. Do you know how me, Mario, does that? With the owned.gg, the game discovery platform for you. Find the latest and greatest games, collect digital items, and own your player future. Check it out, owned.gg. So, in honor of me, Mario, playing a new game, I am leaving the Mushroom Kingdom and into the world of modern warfare. That's right, my friends. I'm ready to put down my trusty fire flower and pick up some serious firepower. Let's go! So I have way too many of these things, but there's the beginning of the gameplay, first firefight, near-death experience, after a successful takedown, stealth sequence, calling in an airstrike, airstrike impact, or end of mission. I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Which one do you want to start with here first? Takedown? I'm only going to do two because it's going to take way too long to do all of them.
Airstrike.
Airstrike. It's okay. I wish I had this kind of firepower back in the Mushroom Kingdom. Time to call in an airstrike. This is me, Mario, requesting airstrike. Let's blow these buddies away. All right, so that's one. We can do the end of mission. You did it. Mission complete. That was quite the adventure. It's a whole different world than in the Mushroom Kingdom, but it was fun to try something new. Maybe next time I'll bring Luigi along for some brotherly bonding on the battlefield. Thank you so much for watching me, Mario. Now go check out owned.gg, a place for all your favorite games. Ben, real quick, introduce yourself. I'd love to hear a bit about who you are, what you're building, that kind of stuff, and then we'll break into all the fun stuff, which is like watching some legit gameplay of some of an amazing looking game.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Ben Mauro. I've been a senior concept designer and art director and creator in the game and film industry for like 15 plus years, working on movies like the Hobbit trilogy, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Elysium, Chappie, Valerian, Mortal Engines, and video games like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 and 4, and Halo Infinite. And
so we were not far off with Mario visiting the era of Call of Duty.
Wow, yeah. Right. A lot of Call of Duties, a lot of years on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And
hopefully it wasn't a flashback.
Well, and while I was doing all that, I was slowly working on this graphic novel called Huxley over the course of 10 years. And when all the NFT kind of moment happened, late 2020, early 2021, I was getting ready to launch it anyway, and just decided that this would be probably the most interesting way to launch an IP and kind of the current landscape that's out there, and just kind of went for it and kind of haven't looked back.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, I don't know if you know this, but when I met Ben, it was NFT NYC a couple years ago, and you showed me one of the Unreal Engine Huxley trailers, and I was just like, this is absurd. This is amazing. So I'm so excited to see you again, albeit virtually, and talk a little bit more about the developments over the last couple of years, which is nuts.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you brought up it's some of your work experience, right? You mentioned Elysium, you mentioned Chappie, you mentioned a couple other this has, from everything that I've seen so far, it has District 9 kind of like futuristic aspects to it, and which is like, if I had to pick, like, I'm a big fantasy and sci-fi nerd, and I love, don't get me wrong, I like love deep fantasy, but if I pick a sci-fi genre, if there's like genres within, it's like not this like super futuristic, like everything's beautiful future. It's like a like rustic, dark, like you have a bunch of really old tech that's constantly getting refurbished kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like this nails that so well. I am like smitten with this kind of stuff. So for the people out there, can you build the world? Talk a bit about Fury 7, because you are the man, the lore master, if you will, behind all of this as well. I would love to just like a quick 30-second snippet of what's being built.
Yeah, I mean, it's
or maybe
it's
5 minutes, or maybe an hour of just the lore, like whatever. Like I could just you talk for an hour and I'd be happy.
30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, well, a lot of it is like it's not Earth. It's like another planet, like far off in a different distant galaxy, maybe like millions of years before Earth happened or millions of years after Earth happened. Can kind of go either way. But basically, this planet was like destroyed by wars and things earlier in time that you kind of get into in some of the flashback sequences in the comic, and why all that happened, what happened. But since then, it's thousands and thousands of years later on this planet, and it's just all the things that were left behind, and people are scavenging and surviving and picking apart and trying to make a life in this kind of hostile new world. And these characters called Ronin are soldiers for like clone soldiers for the machine cities created by the robots and AI in the city. And those are some of the characters that we play in the game. And not hugely story driven in this, but like the overall idea I kind of view as like, this is like the Ronin training in the desert to become a better soldier for the city. So we're kind of preparing and training and becoming the best soldier we can.
Nice. The best clone that we can.
Experience. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really cool. All right, so that's a good stage setting. I'm gonna switch some stuff around here and just actually pull up the game so we can see in my fancy pantsy new thing that's happening here. Let's see. I got a whole. Here we go. Look at this. Ooh. Wonderful transitions and fade to black, fade back in. So here is the game. We have some soldiers, red and blue, but we're gonna start a game. And if people out there want to jump in. So what should we? What kind of settings should we set it up to?
Yeah, I mean, we could maybe set the score a little higher. There's a bunch of custom settings, so maybe like set it to 30 or 50 or whatever. Yeah. And yeah, I think the rest of the settings are probably pretty good.
Okay.
And
bots enabled.
Yeah, I think all that's pretty good.
Yeah. Whoa, it looks fantastic. Whoa. Here we go.
Which one did you go into? You went into Sandstorm?
Yes.
Desert?
So your map should probably pop up soon.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there I see it. I'll join as well.
Okay.
So I should be in there.
Nice. Wow. This is like whoa, I'm getting shot. Ah!
All right, I'm in the matches. I think I'm on the other team.
Oh my goodness. I might need to turn down the volume here in just a second. Is it coming through too loud on your end?
I don't think I hear anything on your. I think it's pretty muted on
your end, right?
Okay, good. All right, I just want to make sure it's not too loud. But let me mess with some settings real quick.
You might want to turn it down on your end. So
yeah, the background music and whatever isn't very loud, but those gunshots coming hot.
Sure. Yeah.
Apply.
Yeah, there's 3 levels. It was cool to be able to get 3 different maps for the launch, and try to make everything look as good as possible. And
the game looks amazing. Like the level of detail on like this dirt area and like the rock face. It feels like I'm out at like in where am I thinking? Like Jacob Street, Jackson Tree. What's the place in the desert with the trees that are very special?
Joshua Tree.
Joshua Tree.
Yeah, there you go.
Jacob Street. Yeah, I swear I'm a worldly individual, friends. But
what's cool though is all the character models. So the cinematic trailer I released.
Yes, which is like I linked that in the tweet.
So all these characters are from that, and we just had to optimize and rebuild to get an Unreal Engine. Originally, I thought we could just use the crazy cinematic model, but we still need to optimize a little bit. But
Interesting.
So it's cool to be able to like build something for a film and then be able to use it in the game.
So you had a lot of efficiencies, right? Like once you kind of created the assets, you just had to do a little bit of tweaking to retrofit. That's incredible. I mean, I think that like this, you know, that process and pipeline coupled with, you know, any, you know, ability to, you know, create a prototype in AI will just make this, you know, will hopefully shorten the cycle so we can get a game in less than 10 years, you know, and for hopefully a fraction of the price.
A lot of it just depends on like what you're going to make and how big of an experience. A lot of this is early, like just what could this look like? How could this play? This is very much like a vertical slice demo and not like a full game. But that's like a huge first step in a long process to make something bigger.
Oh, look at you twitching there. You just got eliminated.
I know, jeez.
Sorry, I didn't see it before.
I am not very good at shooters just in general, so I'm excited for the lore and world building portion of the game. So like, I know this is very much a vertical slice. It's like, it's also probably, I'm sure, a little bit of like proof of concept on the game side of things. Like we can ship something, we can do something. We have some characters that people care about. I'm keen to understand like, you're not building, like a lot of people are out there. It's like, I got to put together this game, right? I got to build this game. I got to do whatever. And then maybe I'll use some like content, like maybe I'll make a comic book to promote it, or like maybe we can talk about doing like film. You are 100% going in IP. Like you're building a world. So like talk to me about how starting from a world versus like starting from a game or like a specific comic. Like talk to me, I guess, about that design process and the development thought process behind all that. It's just, I'm so curious.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it was I wanted to, because to me that's the hardest part. Like you see that happen a lot, right? Where a movie comes out and you're like, that was all right, but like it was just the world was so boring and like I don't really care about it. And you're like, you know, that could have just been like a TV drama. Why was that a science fiction film or something? And because it's just not very interesting, you know. So for me, that's kind of where the background I come from is making these worlds for other people, and so for me, making the graphic novel was like the biggest first step to like, what is this world? Who are these characters? What does this look like? And after that, it's kind of easy. It's like, oh, I'm going to make a game in this world. It's like, well, it's all, the blueprint's all there because I did it. And that's kind of the hardest part. So like every page of the comic was like the hardest day of my life because it was like creating something that doesn't exist yet. So it's like, okay, the characters get into a spaceship and go to a city. It's like, well, I got to design the spaceship. I got to design the planet they're on. I got to design the city they land into. I got to design the guns they have. I got to design like every single shot is like a totally new thing. So it was like, there's a lot of work up front, like front loading all that. But then after that, it goes a bit smoother where it's like, oh, now I just have to make this new tool in the world that's already exists. And it's like, it's a lot easier to make a Star Wars spaceship after Star Wars is complete.
The IP already exists and you already have like a built-in kind of fan base. So like,
well, I have a question really fast. So based on that, right? I'm curious what percentage, if any, of AI did you use in any of the creative process, or not so much, because in the kind of decade of conceptualizing and building this, it wasn't as, at least it existed, but it wasn't as, I'd say, commonplace and accessible as it is now. Not saying that you wouldn't have had access to it, because I'm sure the people that you work with were nerding out already when it was less accessible. So I'm just kind of curious how much, or if any, of AI that you
0% AI. This is all like way before that, and it was all handmade as well. So like all these characters were handmade and like made by humans, if you will.
Made by human clones.
Human clones. Though I am working on like an AI. The next avatars that are coming out, or like the art project, is AI characters in this world, but that's also going to be all made by people and not made by not using any AI generated tools.
So they're going to be AI
characters,
personality,
or like.
They
are more like, what does AI look like in this universe? But It's made by people.
So
You're doing it backwards. Don't you know everyone's using AI?
What am I doing?
Ben?
What am I doing? I should just be clicking a button. I should just click a button.
But Ben, I have a question then. Are you, so it sounds like, but you haven't explicitly say this, do you have a philosophical stand on AI for creative? Because you
bringing out heavy questions today, Bekah.
Well, I think that's a fair question.
It is a very fair question.
I don't know. That's a tough one. Like, I definitely see its use, and I have used it a lot, like just because I always test everything that comes out and new tools and stuff.
Totally.
And but like a lot of it, I just don't feel the satisfaction I get when I create something myself.
Yeah.
But I've been through this cycle like multiple times in the past, not necessarily with AI, but like there's always like an advanced new tool that comes out. And as a production artist on movies and stuff, like when we're getting paid for a job, we have to use the latest and greatest thing to get the job done faster, better, for the least amount of money. And you just have to kind of like when I was starting, I started drawing on paper and pencil, and painting it in Photoshop. And then when I started working in film, it was like photo bashing, which was basically like taking photos off the internet and mushing it together and like painting over it and like to make a very photoreal image, because the directors all wanted something as close to what was going to be in their movie. So then we had to use photo bashing. We had to use ZBrush and 3D to make these very detailed sculptures. And it just always like, it's like an arms race of like technology to get things like as realistic as possible that looks like the final thing in the movie. And AI kind of feels like the next version of that, where it's like, you can explore a lot of ideas very easily, very quickly, and get to the final product that a director or whoever wants to see. But just it's doing it now in a way that really does kind of cut out the artist in a way, which I'm not super excited about, because I just see how that like for me, like I feel like I've done enough where I don't mind as like if I was just starting out, I'd be maybe a little defeated feeling like, but I feel like I've done enough in my career that I went from drawing on paper and I've got the satisfaction of like doing every step, that I don't feel like I'm missing out on those experiences of being an artist. But if I was just starting, that might feel a little defeating, I guess, where it's like, oh, I guess I don't have to learn all this stuff. I can just
skip. Like it feels like skipping steps. Because I gotta tell you, I when I was younger, I wanted to be a Japanese animator. I wanted to like live in Japan and make anime. That's what I wanted to do for a living. And so I personally, I mean, obviously I did not do that, right? But I felt the transition of using kind of like computer generated animations, right? When there's a medium that I'm so used to being cell drawings, right? That I feel, I see it, I experience the difference between the two. And it does make me sad, because I have a ton of art books. Like every time I go to Japan, I collect just legacy Japanese anime art books. And then the later titles are not like, when I look at the art books, they're already kind of digitally mocked up. And so I don't get to see the sketches and like, you know, the little like kind of human element to it. And it does make me sad. So
I do feel like there's always going to be a place for what people have made, like that cycle, right? Like, so digital, like traditional cell animation to 3D, like that was a new disruptive tool in the industry as well, right? So like, to me, like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and these older like animes in the 90s are, to me, it's almost like the height of 2D animation, of like, no one's painting backgrounds like that anymore. No one is taking the time to draw one frame of an animation that detailed. And that's like the peak of that cycle. And then when 3D happened, it was pretty bad at the start. It just didn't look good. But now it's like all the Pixar movies and stuff, like it looks great, you know? Yeah. But it took a long time to get there. But to me, I keep going back to it. Like I have Akira and Ghost in the Shell stuff, behind me. Like it's just, it's timeless, incredible art, like the height of human creativity and achievement to me still. And to me, that's what I would prefer to do with like what I do or Huxley and everything. Like I want to, if I create something, I want to feel like this is hopefully just a huge milestone in human creativity, or at least having that as the goal that will stand the test of time. And that would make me happy and creatively fulfilled over using something that can kind of just do it in a click, even though it exists, you know?
Right.
It's going to be a weird one. I think we're all going to have to deal with it. But like it's going to be the same for every industry and every creative field, right? Like with ChatGPT disrupting writers and journalists and lawyers and like everyone, right? So like everyone's going to be feeling the same thing. Like I went to law school and spent 30 years being a lawyer, and now this thing can do it. Like what do I do now? You know?
Yeah.
I spent 12 months online coming up with terrible 2-minute bits. What am I going to do with my life now? Hey, who's going to be doing these Mario impressions?
Or even musicians, right? You're seeing that now too. Like people are making like a bunch of Jay-Z songs that sound just like a Jay-Z song. It's like, well, what do musicians do now? Like, it's gonna get crazy. I don't think we're all prepared for what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
Like deepfakes are going to take on a whole new meaning.
Oh, that's what we need.
It's just created, right?
That's why we need some metadata validator, right? That it's like, this is an original copy, this is whatever. And then that way, if something's faked and it doesn't have the original metadata, then we know. I don't know. I hope someone's working on that. Anyone out there, please work on that.
Ooh, I can throw a grenade? How do I throw a grenade?
Q.
All right, good to know.
Let's try.
Let's do a different map.
The next level,
Quit. Yes. This is a lot of fun. This is, I mean, it's like, you're right. It's like, it's very much like a simple game loop or whatever. But like, I am blown away by the art, the like landscape. The characters even look like they're moving great. Like, this is, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of I see games making or whatever is when they go out to talk about and start promoting their game or whatever, and they have like a pre-alpha, they do a lot of pre-alphas, I think, too soon, where it's like it's not polished enough, and then they expect everyone to like understand that. And you see, it's not like me as a person who plays a lot of early stage video games, like I feel like I have a good sense of like, it's an alpha, so like I know they're going to be working on XYZ. But then you get traditional Web 2 gamers to look at this, and then they're like, oh yeah, like all Web3 gaming is bullshit. Like, look at this terrible, awful game. It's not even like close to what Fortnite looks like. And like, they don't have the frame of reference to have like, oh yeah, Fortnite has been around for close to a decade, right? And all of the builds that have been going in, and this game is like 8 months old. So like, what this does is, sure, it's like a shorter, kind of like straightforward game loop, but it shows like, oh, like there are some legit games with like legit creators and creatives behind it that are building something that has like huge potential. And so I don't think that a lot of games that are out there are thinking about that way. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but I'm just going to assume you are and kind of put words in your mouth.
Like, it's got the basic, team deathmatch and these kind of game modes.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of it is that like this could have been out the door way sooner and looked pretty bad. But I'm from working in games, I just know how those industries think. So I'm very cognizant of like, if it looks bad, like people are just gonna rail on it and perpetuate that same idea, like, oh, all these games don't look good and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
and 33 TV. 33 TV, thanks for jumping in. You say this works on a controller? I can play with a controller?
Yeah, it works with the Xbox controller.
I have one sitting right here even. What am I doing?
Okay.
I know. I picked this one is Oliver, my oldest. He got to pick up the highlighter yellow.
Boys?
I know. I'm gonna have to replace the gonna stream snipe 33 TV. Come on now. I'm trying to impress the internet. Come on. But that's really, really cool. So like, how you mentioned like that this world has been in production now for
10 years.
Oh, for 10 years. Sorry, I just got a grenade to the face as I was trying to ask you a question. How long? Oh, I forgot to change the settings. How long did it take to get to this stage, at least on the game part? Like, why did you decide you built the comics? Why did you decide to go game first? Are you also going movie at the same time? Like, tell me, like, Why are you choosing these content channels?
Well, a lot of it was, to me, this I view this kind of vertical slice kind of proof of concept demo as the same thing, like the cinematic trailer. What the cinematic trailer did for the film side, this would be for the game side. So it's not a full movie. It's not the entire thing, but it shows a proof of concept of this is how this world could be adapted, and this is what it could look like, and done to a high level that people are like, okay, I see it, you know. Just because I know how those meetings go, where, you know, you just have a comic or some images, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but how would this look? And what's this going to cost? And, you know, how long is this going to take? And a lot of the times working on films and things and games, like that takes a huge amount of time. It's just like, how do we adapt this comic? What does this look like? I've worked on productions where they spent like 2 or 3 years and they didn't even come close to even making what was made for the cinematic trailer that I made, because people couldn't agree on what this is going to look like.
Really?
No one could decide. And then years go by and it's like, man, you guys haven't even got what it's going to look like yet, you know, and it just takes a long time. So for me, it's just like eliminating all those unknowns as much as possible. And
yeah, because then also
doing as much of it myself, you know.
Yeah, it's also that also helps when you don't have to talk to a committee of people. But I'm sure, like, as you're out there, like, hiring for folks too, or like looking for new people, they're jumping into some known entity versus like jumping into like, oh, maybe I can have a hand in like where this is going. So I'm sure that makes that easier, at least getting people moving forward in a direction.
Yeah, or a lot of the people I work with, we have a lot of shared experiences. Like most of my core team, we all worked with Neil Blomkamp, so it's like a shared, like,
yeah.
If I know if I ask them for something, I know I'm gonna get something, because we all work with the same people.
Yeah.
So that helps too, finding just great people that you like. And
so then there is a little bit of the District 9 if you've worked with Neil before. How so?
It's like,
so
that's like the badge. That's like the check. Like, did you work with Neil?
Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. I now respect you as a creative director now that you've told me that bit of information. Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because like I've worked with people, like there's a bunch of great artists all over the world, but for some reason my core two like concept artists have that same. We all worked with him, and
amazing.
I don't know. It's like kind of a similar taste and aesthetic, and just kind of. Yeah, it's like I don't have to communicate as much because I know they know the same thing.
Yeah.
That's
really cool.
Yeah, so not agreeing on things, you know, especially when you're building an entire world, I feel like if you've got that friction of not being on the same page, nothing's going to get done or not done right.
Yeah, or like, oh, that feels more like some anime or something, or that feels too much like everyone's got on the same kind of target, I guess, which helps a lot for sure.
So now let's start pontificating about the future, right? So like you've been creating this for a decade. You decided to go comic book and release the comic book as an NFT because like that seemed like a really new, innovative thing with the way like content was being delivered to kind of the true fans, I guess, at the time. This game is also getting built. I assume we'll have like some interplay with the Avatar digital collectible. Excuse me, we're not allowed to say the dirty word NFT anymore. Somewhere along the line, but like, are you thinking that this, like, are you leaning into the Web3 aspect for this game? Are you focused on just making a great game? If it has elements of Web3 stuff in the background, that's cool. Like, how are you thinking about all this new stuff that is being opened up? I know AI is out, but I'm curious, like how are you incorporating these things? How are you thinking about it? What excites you about the new opportunities in this kind of world, I guess? Big question, I know.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of it would just be making something that's great at the core. Right. I mean, that's always been my goal. Like I was making a comic before Ethereum was even existed, right? So like I was just making something that I loved and hoped other people would like in the future. In this case, similar kind of thing, like what is just going to be fun and cool experience, and what is the most logical way to integrate things in a way that feels right. And I think a lot of it would probably be closer to what has done traditionally. Like you play games, you unlock skins, you do this stuff, but now you maybe just own those skins. Like take something that works and just a +1. We don't have to go too crazy, because I feel like early on when the space started, there was a lot of things floating around. Like you got to have a coin, you got to have this, you got to have this play to earn. And I feel like all those things have kind of crashed and proven not to be what works. So to me, like, just, I'm very cognizant of like not doing something just to do it, and really making sure that thing proves out over the long term, before rushing into something or adding it to some cool experience that I'm making.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think a lot of like the headache that comes up with everything that's being built in Web3, right? And like, is play to earn the right way for a game to like come up with their core game loop, all this kind of stuff. Like, all that kind of falls by the wayside when you're looking at this like gigantic wrecked spaceship that looks like it's got some like badass and you get grenaded in the face, of course, while I'm trying to show this off live on stream. But like all of that kind of falls by the wayside. It becomes so secondary, right? As when someone is immersed in the world, like I think about, I often think about like Stardew Valley, right? It's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's not like, you know, it's not this like AAA quality like Modern Warfare or like whatever, but it's like the way that they have built this world that anyone can jump into and feel like they're a part of. I think that that's amazing. And so like this looks so cool, and like I am this like rugged, dusty looking clone running around, and like sure, like if I own the NFT at the end of the day, that's cool, but like that's definitely a byproduct of this amazing, fun new world that's being built. And then it just honestly, like the Web3 stuff built in potentially new revenue streams or new ways for fans to like interact, but it doesn't have to like, it doesn't replace the cool ass fucking spaceships that I'm looking at right now, which are amazing. So first and foremost, because I got a new gun. I don't think I picked one of these up.
The rifle. Yeah.
That's
nice.
So this is exciting. So what's the? I know I'm always trying to hold people to this on the internet because the internet immortalizes everything. But like, what's the roadmap? What is the timelines? What are we looking at here? Because I know you're walking down several channels at the same time. I don't know if there's more comic books coming out or what timeline the movie's on, and what time the game's on, but what can people out there
like
watching?
A full movie and a full game would definitely be longer out, just because that takes a very long time. But again, on my end, like I'm very proactive in doing things that I can do. So like this even just this like vertical slice that was like maybe a year and a bit just to make that. Like it takes time to make something nice, because all this is like this whole junkyard is all custom made. Like
I mean, look, like you just like pieces. Wires like running.
It's
along.
not like random pieces we bought and just threw together. You know, it's like there's artists making those things by hand, and that's also why it takes a bit longer for what I'm doing, is because it all has to be handmade and not, you know, if it's Call of Duty or something, you can scan people and, you know, dress people up in soldier gear and scan them, and you've got a cool character. It's all like real life, and you can base things heavily off of like just real life locations around the planet. But for this, it all has to be designed, which just takes a lot more time.
I'm ready to go visit Fury 7 so we can start doing speed up the development timeline. Yeah, that'd be great. I happen to volunteer. I happily volunteer as a human clone that you want to scan into the game at any point. Like, just let me know if you need an avatar of Wrecks running around in this thing.
And then as far as like new stories and stuff, that's definitely kind of the next thing coming up. Is a new story. Well, before the new story, there's 2 prequels I'm working on. The first one's called The Oracle, and then the one after that, each one takes place a bit earlier in time before the comic. And that will be more of like a art/storybook and less of a graphic novel. So slightly different format, but will be very cool. And then there's going to be a new trailer, which I think is even cooler than the first one, coming out associated with that new story. And I worked on that with Unit Homage, who did some Love, Death, and Robots episodes. They did Star Wars Eclipse trailer. They did the Elden Ring trailer and a bunch of other amazing stuff. They're incredible. And I flew out to France to work with them for a bit. It was really cool experience.
That's an amazing experience.
And then what else?
It also seems like what you're doing is you're like kind of queuing up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like queuing up all these stories. So like if you go and like, I don't know, talk to Netflix or talk to whoever, and you can like sell them this like these like very succinct packages, like right, like you can get out of it, which is pretty cool. And again, it's like it's IP that you're working on here. It's not like a game that you have to then go convince a bunch of gamers to play. It's like, no, you build this world, and if people are interested in this world, they'll come interact with it in the way that they want to best, right? Some people just want to queue up on Netflix and watch a show. Some people want to play the game to 100%. Some people want to watch other people play the game on the, on the internet and get a grenade to the face. Like everyone can interact with this IP in this world how they want to. That's what I think is like a beautiful way to construct a world. Yeah. As a dungeon master playing Dungeons and Dragons, this world building it just speaks to me in such a wonderful way.
I also have to add on to that. Because what I think is so fascinating of that you again repurposed the assets in so many different formats that theoretically, if you wanted to do a foray, this is something that I'm excited about in the future, into kind of interactive movie or storytelling, right? Where someone could put a headset on or they can watch it on in an interactive medium, right? Whether that's their TV or desktop, right? That they can be part of the story and watch the story unfold. So I think of this like a digital or virtual Sleep No More, where you're like part of the play, like you're there. You can walk around as different actions and activities are happening and experience the story in so many different ways and potentially influence the story, which is so freaking cool.
Yeah. And a lot of the things are being built to double up as much as possible. So like there's some other interactive experiences that I'm working on that I'm seeing what the best way to put those out there, but like, whatever gets built, ideally it's good enough that could also be used as set pieces if it needs to be used later or previs or whatever. So like everything, trying to use it as many different ways as possible. So that, you're just hitting as many birds with one stone kind of thing.
It's actually someone told me this. It's feeding multiple birds with one stone.
Feeding multiple birds with one stone?
Yes. Yeah. Feeding multiple. It's better than like killing two birds with one stone. Yeah. Putting that out there. Just get one stone. You feed multiple birds.
Feed multiple birds.
Yes.
But it's really interesting to see like someone, a lot of, don't get me wrong, I love all the people that are building games out there, but someone who comes in with like a wealth of experience having built so much IP for other folks or from such large brands, like you understand the kind of way to build this the best, as opposed to like, let me make a really fun game loop and then I'll build the lore on top of that and then I'll do whatever. Like you are like structurally building each piece from the ground up that has this like repeatability, replayability, usability in such a profound way that I think it's very underutilized out there from all the people that I'm talking to on a
I mean, well, because it takes a long time, right? Like that's to me that's just like that's how I had to do it on movies and games, right? Like it's a lot easier to make something in a world that already exists, like we said earlier, but like if you're making a game and doing the IP creation at the same time, it's just going to be kind of a nightmare, because it's like, oh, we built this character, but the whole world changed now, and then we just lost like months and months of time just building that one character because we changed the idea. Like that's not a great position to be in, as opposed to like, okay, I spent the time to make this cool world and it's pretty set in stone, and now we just can adapt these things into game assets and make a fun game in this world that already exists. So to me, the graphic novel is definitely like the seed blueprint and DNA of the whole world, and it's kind of easy after that.
Yeah, it's nice. And I'm just like I'm just like admiring the dust in the background as like this is going on. Like this is a beautiful game. Like it's absolutely beautiful, the amount of detail that goes into this. All right, so we're coming up towards the end here now. We got just a little bit left. What I'd love to do, and let me take off my big old head. We don't need my big head here. We need your big head. You're the man of the hour. There we go. What I'd love to understand is like maybe some like just lighter, like you worked on a ton of games and a ton of worlds. What was like your favorite experience? One of those times in the past, either favorite experience or favorite project because you loved the world that was being built. You could take it either way.
I mean, it kind of usually whatever I was working on at the time was like because I always want to do my best. So like each thing was always like the coolest. But I think Elysium, working with Neil on Elysium, was like one of the bigger formative experiences in my career, just because that was probably the first time I did the entire process of creating something from scratch.
Oh, really?
Like I think we started where it was just like a paragraph, a couple sentences on paper, and then we started building a world. And then while he was writing the script, and then we started doing all the scenes and designing every single little piece of the world, and then working with people to build all those things, and seeing those things we built on set, getting filmed, and then the entire getting the VFX, and then having it released, like the whole process. Because before I would always be
brought in at some
point, draw a wolf for The Hobbit or something, and draw this thing, and it was so massive that it was hard to see how all the pieces connected together. But I think Elysium was like the first time I had that whole process, and then since then going through it multiple times where you're like, I think I could do this for myself now. Like it gives you the confidence of like, okay, this is how this whole giant thing gets made over many years. And I think I can do that for myself in a graphic novel form, but it's just going to take a long time if I want to do it all myself. And just kind of started from there. Yeah.
Nice. How are you balancing like that creation process with the way Web3 treats everything, which is like, why isn't it out next week? Like, what are you even doing over there?
That's hard. That's definitely hard.
Yeah.
But I think because people have seen that
just the quality.
When I release something, it's as high quality as I can. And I think they kind of trust me a bit more now to be like, okay, it's taking time, but it's going to be really cool. Because I just want to make sure like things are as good as possible when I put them out. Like same thing what happened with the robots. I think people weren't sure, like, because there was a few comics that were out at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm making these cool avatars, and they're going to be really awesome. But again, people are just like, yeah, whatever, and then people leave. And then when they came out, though, everyone's just like, oh, like wow, like, great job. Like, I think people are just like really blown away by what was actually created, and then after that, it's just been like, okay, yeah, like let's give them some time to make the next thing, and give them some time to make the next thing, and
yeah, I wish everyone had that mentality of like, let's just make something great as opposed to pumping something out because we have to like meet some sort of VC deadline in order for them to like dump on retail from capacity. So
it gets, and just the expectation of how long things take. I think hopefully I've been pretty good about explaining like this is how long things take. Because I mean, you just get people come in and they think something's going to be done in 10 hours or something. And it's just like, it just takes a little time.
It takes a little time. So what's it could be Huxley.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Bekah.
What is your favorite game?
Even a game, you've been a game builder now before too, so on some of the biggest titles.
That's tough. I mean, I always love shooters. Like I always play the latest Call of Duties and stuff like that, and to see where the bar is at. And I'm a huge fan of a lot of the old school like Japanese games. Like I'm loving that they're remaking all like the Resident Evils and just adding a fresh coat of paint on them. So like Resident Evil 1 and 2 are still some of my favorite games. Like Shadow of the Colossus and stuff have a real special place to me.
What a throwback. Shadow of the Colossus is so good.
And they did the remake. Blue Point Games did the remake, and it's beautiful a few years ago. And so stuff like that I still really love a lot. And I'm a huge fan of like survival games like Rust and things like that, even though I don't have a lot of time to play them.
Rust.
Or a recent one that came out, Sons of the Forest, is kind of in that vein, which was really cool. A bit more story driven, kind of like surviving on an island and this kind of stuff. Trying to think what else. Diablo 4, looking forward to that. I played a little bit the beta to see how it is, and I guess I'm always just experimenting and keeping an eye on what's coming out, what's cool.
Yeah. Well, you have this like, it seems like you have this like really innate ability or drive to be like, okay, how are people making the best at whatever it is? How can I incorporate that part of that into what it is that I'm building, this world that I'm building, which I think is like, again, a very underutilized trait in what's being built in Web3 for the most part, but like something that is very unique to you that I think a lot of people should or at least be willing to go out and do that kind of research and study, I think is very interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of it is just like, I guess I know how long it takes. So it's like, what is the coolest thing that I can make, or what is the coolest thing out there, and what makes the most sense to make. Like same thing when I was writing the comic and stuff, like keeping an eye on like all these great TV shows coming out, keeping an eye on all the movies, like what kind of stories are being told, what kind of narrative arcs are happening, and intentionally trying to do something like, no, I've seen that too much. I've heard that story too many times, or I've heard this ending too many times. It's like, how can I do something that isn't that, or something that I would want to see that I haven't seen yet? Because like, what's the point of making something that we've already seen? Like, I want to be surprised too, where it's like, oh, that's really cool. That's a really cool ending, or that's a really cool, I haven't heard that before or seen that. Like, that's cool. I can give something new or bring something new into the world. Which to me excites me, right? Like when we see some new TV show or movie where you think it's something and then you watch and you're like, wow, that was so different. I didn't expect that. Like that was really cool. Yeah. And that kind of helps. It's like us helping advance these art forms forward. Should be a big goal in all of our.
I agree, because as a consummate consumer of all things creative, I want cool and fun things to watch and check out all the time. So I appreciate all the hard work and dedication that you're putting in. And you actually kind of answered what my question was going to be, which is what excites you, which it sounds like propelling the space forward in a very big way, finding that fun new stuff and a new way to do certain things or tell certain stories. So that's really, really exciting. But Ben, thank you so much for jumping in here. I guess tell people, the classic things that you do at the end of this. Where can people find you? What should they be looking for? All those fun little tidbits.
Sure. Yeah, you can find me at Ben Mauro Art on Twitter, and Huxley Saga on Twitter and Instagram, and huxleysaga.com to check out any updates on what's going on, and check out all the cool stuff that's getting made.
It's cool stuff. Like verified cool stuff. My opinion is not strongly held, but if you at all even give it one modicum of respect, it is very cool stuff. So but thanks for coming on, Ben, and we'll catch up soon. I will keep tabs. Let me know when the next thing's coming out, because I want to play, and as long as you're okay, if I can play this on streams down the road as well and just hang out and
absolutely
on it, show it off.
Yeah, you still got to check out Sandstorm, the 3rd level.
I will. I'm just gonna walk around and admiring the scenery and get another grenade to the face right when that happens. But thanks again, man. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thanks so much for having us. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Take care.